Hey, everybody. Welcome to Independent Living's Soar 2 Project podcast. My name's Scott. I'm going to be your host today. I'm joined by Deshawn, Crystal, and Ann. We're so glad that you can join us in this talk about what is recovery. We'll start the podcast, as we will all of our podcasts, with a 2 to 5 minute short meditation. So I invite you into this space to ground ourselves, to love ourselves, and just to connect with whatever higher power, whether it's the universe, or just to simply calm ourselves down so we may be present in this exact moment.
I choose gratitude. I choose gratitude and expectation. In every moment, I have all that I need to feel peaceful. I choose gratitude over trying to bypass, ignore, or push down difficult feelings. Gratitude is readily available, and I trust in the universe that my wildest, most magnificent dreams are being fulfilled, regardless of whether or not they are manifested. I can be uncomfortable and grateful at the same time. Experience love and gratitude even when it feels like everything around me is falling apart. I view challenges as opportunities. Developing my abilities makes my life more rewarding. Overcoming obstacles teaches me that I am resilient. I recognize my worth and know that I deserve to feel joyful. I take care of myself. I have learned what makes me happy, and I surround myself with positive thoughts and people who love and encourage me. I work at being flexible. Change is part of life, so I prepare myself to adapt to new conditions. I listen to others who express views different than my own. I welcome new experiences with an open mind and see their potential to add joy to my life. Laughter instantly refreshes my sense of joy. I lighten up and feel more energized. Most of all, I strive to be generous. It's easier to feel joyful and grateful when I concentrate on helping others rather than worrying about myself. I give my time, my energy, and money to support worthy causes in my community and around the globe. Today, I resolve to be grateful. I know that I am responsible for my own joy.
Thanks for spending those 2 minutes with me. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm really grateful for this space that we're able to connect with individuals across the Mid-Hudson region here in New York State to talk about recovery and talk about successes and struggles and barriers. And like I said earlier, I'm joined by Deshawn Gaskins, who's a peer specialist with Independent Living, who offers peer support to individuals living with substance use disorders, primarily opiate and stimulant use disorders, and his co-worker Ann. They both provide services in Sullivan County, Orange, and Rockland, respectively. We're also joined by Crystal, who is a peer specialist with MHA Dutchess. She also works in the substance use courts and other facets throughout the county. So thank you, all three of you, for joining us today as we embark in this new space that is safe and protected. And just a disclaimer that we may use language that may be triggering or may be traumatic to some. So we will do our best to use trauma-informed language and approaches and explanations for the topics at hand today. But again, this is a completely safe space. If something is said and something is done, please reach out to one of our agencies or the 311 or the, the mental health hotlines that are available throughout your county and hopefully your state. So the first piece that we're going to cover is, what is recovery, and who says what recovery is. And SAMHSA, Crystal's going to give us a definition of what they deem recovery is. Crystal?
Thanks so much, Scott. Thank you again for having me today. I'm very honored to be here. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share the definition of recovery from SAMHSA, which includes, it says, a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential.
Awesome. Thanks, Crystal. Can you give us a brief and short explanation of who SAMHSA is, just in case the listeners around are not familiar with who SAMHSA is?
SAMHSA is the Substance Use and Mental Health Association, and they are basically the ones who we get our regulations from and who we follow for all of our substance use. When we run groups, we use SAMHSA, all of their materials. They have what I feel is strength-based knowledge and person-centered care. So they're kind of our go-to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. And every time I hear their definition, 3 words come to mind for me. First, it's a process. It's not an end goal. It's maybe not even a starting point for somebody. If we talk about the stages of recovery, it can go up and down the ladder. So the word process is the first word that always comes to mind, and then health and wellness, right? Before I came into this arena, I was in the health and wellness field. I was training and I was competing, and health and physical and clarity of mind were abundant with the people that I was working with. But I also understood that health and wellness means something different to everybody. And that's going to be the theme of a lot of our podcasts here as we begin to embark on this journey together, is that what Deshawn may feel, see, and understand may be something different than Crystal and Ann, or even myself, may feel and understand. And I feel like that's what this arena is going to be so amazing for, is letting people know that you can come up with your own understanding, your own feelings, your own attitude and beliefs on what all of this looks like for you as an individual. And the language that we use in the recovery world is person-centered. It's centered on your beliefs, on what's going to work, and what hasn't worked for you may be different than somebody else. So just wanted to open up to the panelists, if any of them have any feedback about the definition of SAMHSA and the process of recovery.
Yes, I do. Hi, Deshawn Gaskins, independent living sort 2 peer specialist. I'm glad you mentioned, the different processes of, whose recovery might be what. I always think about, there's a saying that I've heard, what makes sense to me may not make sense to you, and what may not make sense to you may not make sense to the next person. As long as you get it and you are understanding and it helps you, that's what matters. My recovery process, your recovery process, and even the things that we're going through can be completely different. But as long as in the recovery aspect, when we say person-centered, we mean, the person's recovery. Like, it's your recovery. Your recovery is not the next person's recovery. What do you feel it would take for you to recover? What would you feel it would take for you to get better? Not what everybody else thinks. What do you need? What do you want?
That's good. Thank you so much, Deshawn. And, the definition in the word recovery brings up the thought of, or maybe even the potential quick conversation on, everyone uses the word sobriety or being sober, but we're using the word recovery. So are they interchangeable? Are they different? or are they sane? The Crystal, what do you feel?
My personal opinion is that they're very different. To me, sobriety is simply putting down a substance. It's not truly living a life of recovery. I think a life of recovery is defined in a different way, and it's really a lifestyle, whereas sobriety is simply putting down a substance.
Yeah, perfect, Crystal. And the word sobriety comes from the word sober, meaning not under the influences of substances. So being or having obtained sobriety means that you've put down the substance of whatever substance it may be. Any other panelists have anything they want to touch on that?
Yes. Hi, Deshaun again. I, I agree with your definition, Crystal, to a point. For me, I suppose sobriety or abstinence, some people might call it, is just it's not that it's not a part of recovery. I feel like it's a pathway to recovery. As we know, like I said before, everybody's recovery is different. But you know, sometimes sobriety, abstinence, and anything, you know, any other word you want to think of it as, you know, to where you just put down and not use, that may be someone's pathway to recovery. That may be all they need to recover. That may be, you know, what they feel like is best for them as far as recovery. So, like I said, I don't think of it as two different things. But I do think sobriety or being sober or abstinent is a pathway which it works for some people. May not everybody, but it does work for some people.
Awesome, thank you. So our first real question for this podcast, and I'm gonna go to Anne if she wants to jump in. What is your experience about recovery? What is your experience with recovery?
My own or others?
Right. So the,
No.
however you feel that you want to provide us with your knowledge and your understanding is up to you.
I agree to some extent of what's been said already by you all. I think everybody's journey is different, and individuals may label it different, where they may be sober or you know, have abstained for a month, and that's their recovery. You know, they were in recovery for a month. So however they label it, however they want to feel as a peer, and having lived experience, not just family experience, it is meeting people where they're at. So however the individual that we work with gets to define their journey. Yeah.
Awesome, great
Yeah.
feedback, and thank you so much. And just to create the space and an understanding is that, like I said, my name is Scott, and I do identify as a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I haven't had the need or find an excuse to pick up any mind-altering substances since 2010. And you know, my experience with recovery was through abstinence, in that I tried other pathways for a multiple of years before I was introduced to abstinence as a pathway. And now that I'm, you know, a few years into it, that I actually don't know if I have a pathway. I use different aspects of different pathways to identify and create my recovery.
That's your pathway, though.
And that's my pathway, right?
Sometimes multiple paths can create one path. That's your pathway.
And that's what's beautiful, is that no one says, oh, try this pathway, and neither one of them it works for you, but you're going to create your own pathway that hopefully you have some sustainable hope and faith and love and purpose and bring back meaning into your life, where you're able to walk out your door or go to work and feel like you're succeeding, and that you're giving back to the world and finding your purpose again, if you had lost it, right? If that's your experience. So the next question I want to ask the panelists is, what is your definition, your person-centered definition of recovery? Crystal?
So I identify as a person in long-term recovery. So for me, recovery has a very profound meaning and definition. It's kind of a daily opportunity for me to reevaluate my purpose and my direction in life. I try to do just a little bit better than I did yesterday, and I'm always learning new things about myself. It's been an opportunity to change my attitudes and my values and my perception of my feelings and my emotions. So it's a constantly changing definition of recovery. It's something new every time I say it. Personal empowerment.
Yeah, a few things that were pertinent that stood out to your definition or understanding is that the learning aspect of it, right? There's a lot to learn, not just about recovery, but to learn about Scott. I stopped learning about myself as soon as I picked up the substance at age 13, right? And so when I came into trying to find hope and happiness again, I had to relearn who I was and to find out who I was and to, like you said, reestablish or maybe even recreate those values that I hold within myself, to hold myself responsible for my behaviors and how I react to the world around me. Is that I can't change the world, but I can change how I react. So if I don't react and I respond, then it gives me that 1 second to make sure that I'm responding from a place of love and understanding instead of resentment, anger, and fear, which completely destroys any opportunity for me to be successful to the people that I'm around. And, constant change. Every second, every minute, every hour, day by day, I'm changing, I'm growing, and I'm moving forward. I have to look back sometimes and use that experience to share it with others, but that's the only time that I look back. I remember what it was like, but I want to take that forward with me to reach those that are trying to find what we're looking for. Do any of the other panelists want to touch on what your definition of recovery may be, or what your experience is?
Mine is really close to the SAMHSA definition of trying to improve, health and wellness and leave a self-directed life and always striving for full potential. So,
Full potential, that's good, Anne.
and just being able to help other people brings me joy and helps me grow.
Yeah, so most of us have touched on that one aspect there at the end, is helping others. So, and I hear people all the time say, Scott, I'm not ready to help and to serve. I'm like, well, are you better than you were yesterday? Are you a better person? Have you accepted and filled yourself with gratitude and understanding that you're not who you were yesterday? And this is a picture of that 13-year-old boy that I talked about before. I don't know who that is. That's a different person. And so what Anne was saying is, how do we know when we're prepared to serve and to give back? And if you're different than you were yesterday, then you have someone, then you have the opportunity to help and serve someone that was you yesterday. You have a little bit more than what they had yesterday. So give them that little bit. We call that a mustard seed. You can give them that little mustard seed and say, hey, I'm going to help you plant this. And then tomorrow, in the next couple hours, we're going to water it, and we're going to mature it, and then we're going to harvest it. And that harvestness is really that internal love that we have for ourselves through these pathways that we're discussing. And so, Deshawn, what's a little bit about your definition now of recovery compared to what it may have been in the past?
Well, let me just start off by saying I identify as an ally in the recovery field. I have had lived experience, not personal to me, but to people that I've cared about really deeply. I've buried too many friends and people, due to like overdose and whatnot. So, but as far as the definition to me, it's also close to SAMHSA, but I like to throw in, the process of improving someone's health, be it physical or mental, and overall well-being. And I like to use the word well-being because that means the person overall. Like what's healthy, what's good for the person overall, not just like it would be not just mental, not being physical, it would be also emotional as well, like what your well-being overall. So I always include the word well-being at the end of my definition.
Just to feed on what Deshawn is saying, is like the 8 dimensions of wellness. I'm sure we'll have a future podcast on that, but that's in all the different aspects of people's lives. And it may be one thing at a time, or it may be a lot simultaneously.
And dropping some knowledge on us. Appreciate that, Anne. Crystal, you have any input? I know you do.
I mean, I guess I would have to just add that as becoming a peer specialist and working, personally with people now, since COVID has allowed us to do that yet again, it has completely changed my own personal recovery. I truly find who I am as a person through the people that I work with. I learn new things about myself every single day. They teach me things about myself. And I never really thought that was a possibility. One of the many pathways that I chose was AA. And in the beginning, I remember sitting in a meeting and someone saying, with AA, you can live your life beyond your wildest dreams. And I thought they were crazy. Mm-hmm. And now living this life, I understand that that's true. And it's all about your perspective and what are your wildest dreams. And for me, that's simply living, getting up every day and not being sick and enjoying this gorgeous weather we have going on and taking my children to a park, and I get to do that every day. I get to live that life with my clients, with myself, and my own personal life and my family. And I think the connection that I get to build in my community is just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. And she may have used the term peer specialist. So I just want to make sure that our listeners from wherever they may be, hopefully, right, we want to go international with this, right? So wherever you are, and whether you're at home, you're at the office, or you're in the car, peer specialist is someone that has lived experience from either mental health or substance use disorders, but has gone through a formal credential training to assist others with whatever type of disorder, or if they just need advocacy or resource navigation. So we're all peer specialists on this call. In future podcasts, we'll actually have individuals from the communities that we serve participate, so we can get you their feedback as well. But we all have lived experience in our person-centered way, but we've gone through formal credential training, which gives us the professionalism of a peer. We're all peers, but there's a separation between peer and a peer specialist. So just wanted to clarify everyone for that, because I'm sure that term is going to come up often.
Can I talk for a second just about a little bit about what we do, just to break it down maybe a little bit?
Break it down, Crystal. Break it down.
Break it on down. So we always say, my little team that we have here, we're like the connecting dot, right? Like people come out of treatment and then they're getting back into life, or they're going to a halfway house, or whatever their case may be. And, along that process and getting back into life, when you're going and living sober now and trying to get back into, doing whatever your daily things are. Sometimes you haven't done things in a long time. So we're kind of that connecting bridge and that connecting piece to get people from A to B so that they can do it with a little bit of support and encouragement along the way, because that seems to be the place where people can get caught up, and relapse or reoccurrence can happen during those, vulnerable moments. So we're kind of like a friend, that can get you through to the next part of your life. And we're just there to support and encourage along the way.
Just to feed on that, it's like to help people help themselves.
Right.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, we all have the ability. We just we need someone to support and to coach and almost to train us how to, and to have the confidence to go and do it. And, my experience, like Ann said, is someone taught me, let's just say A, and I went and attempted A and failed. But then the same person or someone different showed me A, B, or opportunity B, and then I succeeded. And so what Ann is saying is we're just here to help you help yourself. And we may have the tools, like we have 8 dimensions of wellness, what Sean touched about, and Crystal is access to re-engagement in the community coming out of a treatment facility from any sort of disorder. Is that all you had, Ann?
I was just going to say something else, but I forgot.
All right. Well, we're here for a few more minutes, so
Yeah.
if it comes back, just jump in. So we've talked about experience. We talked about definition.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Sorry.
Bring it on, Ann. Come on.
I'm a recovery coach. So
Yeah.
feeding on all that's what we were saying is that we're here to give you a boost. We meet people where they're at, help people help themselves. And what you were saying is you might not have made it with A, but we're going to coach you along to get through it and get to point B or whatever that may be for you.
Yeah, perfect. Recovery coach. You play football, you need a football coach. You're a singer, you need a voice coach. And so if you want to try recovery, get a coach. Most peer, if not all peer services are free. I know there are some private, they're more come from a clinical perspective, but all of our peer services on this podcast will be free. And we're going to cover and bring on different peer specialists or recovery coaches from each county so you can get connected to the resources in your county. As SOAR 2 Recovery, the SOAR project, you can find us on Facebook. We do provide services to all 7 Mid-Hudson counties in New York, but of course, MHA with Crystal, they serve Dutchess County, and they're a huge partner with us in providing services in that county. So we talked a bit about the experience, we talked about the definition, and we're kind of talking about what we can do now for our communities and what we want to tell you is available to you. Do any of the panelists have anything else they want to connect and to provide individuals in the community?
I think for myself, the other thing that's really gotten me connected within my own community is working with Friends of Recovery New York. New York is a huge advocate for everything recovery all across New York State. And then we have our smaller, our county, we have Friends of Recovery Dutchess and Putnam and Rockland, and, all geared towards their immediate community. But they are a huge advocate for everything across the state all year long. So that's a great way to get involved as well. And it's usually just volunteer basis, and you can get involved in different political events. We talk to senators and legislators and our assembly people, and we just advocate for recovery all day, every day. Nothing about us without us.
Yeah, come on, Crystal. Nothing about us without us.
Right.
We have voices, and even those that may not have a voice or may not know that they have a voice, that we're here as recovery coaches and advocates and allies and all these different tools to allow you to know that your voice has a platform. And you may not know where that platform is, But let's work together on finding that platform, making sure that your voice is heard to your community in front of you and the community at large, even at the state level, at the county level, and especially at the national level. 2-3 years ago, I was at the national level as an advocate, and I had to step down because I was like, I need to change my community first. I have to start at home. So there's different platforms for different people, and you just have to find your way. First find your voice, and then find your way to make sure that it's being heard. Because if you identify something that needs change, it's not going to change without you, and it shouldn't change without you, because your voice is the change.
One of the things you like to talk about, Scott, is breaking the stigma.
Yeah.
Stigma.
Yep. So the stigma is huge. And, on this call as peer specialists, we've all done really well today and using new, updated, non-stigmatizing language, in not drugs, substance use disorders, right? You're not a drug addict. You're a peer. You're a person first. We don't promote one way of recovery compared to another. It's all in any pathways until you create your own. And that's truly what all four of us have done in our own experience. And we're just trying to promote it. And in a few weeks, I think 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 podcasts from now, we're actually going to have a whole podcast based on stigma. And Crystal, you're welcome to come back and be a panelist anytime. Deshawn,
For sure.
come hang out with us. That stigma one, let me tell you, Ann and I are going to put it together in the next week or two. It's going to be awesome. We have language and tools, and it's going to be bonkers because it's changing every day. Like we said, is like, I don't even know. It's crazy. It's so crazy to think about how often the language is changing, but it's not changing quick enough. And what I mean by quick enough is that there's still providers and all these people across the country, across your towns, municipalities that are using untrauma-informed language. You're not a drug addict. I'm sorry, you're not. You're a person that suffered miserably from a substance, right? You're not homeless. You have a home. Your home is wherever you lay your head. You're displaced, right? And these are some of the stigmatizing words that we want to change, because when we change the words that we use, it changes the energy. When we change the energy, we get uplifted and passionate about life again. That little kid that I showed you a little ago, he was scared. He didn't know what life was about. He was just trying to fit in to a crowd he didn't understand. When I found recovery, like Crystal said, and the other panelist is, I found my people. Like, we can talk about this, and like I get amped up for recovery, So what is recovery to you? What does it mean? If you haven't found it, come join us our next podcast, or come meet with us, and we'll help coach you, we'll help navigate resources and all of those good things. And so we always want to close our podcast with connecting all the dots, as I kind of did, and just bringing it back home, because we cover a lot. We use a lot of different words you may not have heard. And so the importance is understanding and accepting recovery and all of the pathways for what works for you. And what works for you doesn't have to work for me. And the best part is that's okay.
Absolutely.
And that's the best part. that's the best part. I can sit in an arena with panelists across the region and have 4 different pathways and still have happiness and joy in each one of our lives. And so when we find the acceptance and we're filled with gratitude, there's nothing left but to be authentic, to be real, to be passionate, and to love ourselves again. If we can love ourselves, we can love somebody else. So we're going to close every podcast with the statement of that I love myself on purpose today. because today is all that I have. This moment is all that I have. And if I can love myself right now, I can understand that I'm not a bad person. I'm not a sick person. I'm not whatever kind of person. I'm Scott. That's it. And I'm living with something that's prohibiting me from growing into the likeness that I'm supposed to. So I'm going to go around the room and give the panelists an opportunity to be authentic. Go ahead, Deshaun.
Okay, so being authentic, like you said, at the end of the day, you have to love yourself on purpose. Now, no matter what you're going through, you may not think of that all the time. You may not think of that all the time, especially if things are hard for you right now. But you always, like you said, got to remember to love yourself, because that's the only way you're going to be able to get really through it. You have to love yourself on purpose, and it's a strong saying, but it should be in more people's mouths.
Awesome. Thanks, Deshaun. Crystal?
Thank you. Thank you again for having me. And I definitely love myself on purpose today. And I think the best part is that I love all of the parts of me. I love my past and I love my present. I love the person that I used to be because she was just misunderstood. And I can also love myself today.
Thanks, Crystal. Anne?
Always being authentic is for me being grateful every day for everything that I have, even the past, because it gave me this future, this present, and striving to find joy every day. Sometimes you have to look for it, but it's there. And even if you find joy in just what you're grateful for.
Thanks, Anne. And on the count of three, I'm going to give everyone, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, the same opportunity I gave the panelists. So on three, we're going to say we love ourselves on purpose today. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. I love myself
on purpose today.
Again, thank you so much for joining us today as we talked about what is recovery. And next month, we will be talking about what is peer support and what does that look like and how that can help benefit you through your pathway or creating your pathway to recovery. So again, my name is Scott. Thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to see you at the next podcast. Peace and love.
Peace and love, everybody.